It's RT International. A new video has been released by Islamic State showing its fighters in the recently captured ancient Syrian city of Palmyra. The militants are shown amassing in the area. Syrian state media says the jihadists have killed at least 400 people since seizing the historic jewel last week. Meanwhile, across the border, the Iraqi military has launched an operation to retake the western Anbar province from the radicals, the loss of which was the army's biggest setback in nearly a year. Now, despite the US-led bombing campaign, there's no let-up in the popularity of Islamic State among jihadists across the globe. According to a brand new UN Security Council report, more than 25,000 foreigners have now joined the fight. And they come from over 100 states. That's more than half of the world's countries. And among these states are places that are very far away and rather well off. For example, like Australia. Earlier this month, 26-year-old Yasmina Milovanov left her 2 children with a babysitter in Sydney. She said she's going to pick up a new car. Instead, she's now believed to have joined ISIL in Syria. But as more jihadi recruits are anointed, the coalition seems to be in disarray as to how it all went so badly wrong. Here's Guy Chichikan.
Since the takeover of Ramadi by ISIS, countries that are fighting against ISIS have been blaming each other for letting it happen.
What apparently happened was that the Iraqi forces just showed no will to fight.
To the U.S. Defense Secretary's scathing criticism of the Iraqi forces, the Iraqi Deputy Prime Minister said this.
It's not clear for us why such a unit which is supposed to be trained by the Americans for years and it's supposed to be one of the best units in the army withdraw from Ramadi in such a way.
And finally, Iran weighed in, saying it's the U.S. that has no will to fight ISIS. An Iranian general said today there's nobody in confrontation with ISIS except the Islamic Republic of Iran, as well as nations who are next to Iran or supported by Iran. While these countries are bickering over who did what in the fight against ISIS, the terrorist group captures more territory both in Iraq and in Syria. Ramadi, which is now controlled by ISIS, is an hour and a half away from Baghdad. You could say practically at Baghdad's doorstep. With their gains come blood-chilling reports of mass executions and other horrors. The anti-ISIS coalition members' first reaction seems to be, whose fault is this? We don't hear much about what they're going to do about it. In Washington, I'm Ganesh Chekyan, RT.
Well, Islamic jihadists have their own ways of getting the work done, and it can be tough business. One UK militant revealed last year the group has a so-called suicide bomber waiting list, and it's considered a huge privilege to get on it. Yet the Saudi militants are often accused of nepotism by their fellow jihadists. They reportedly try to ensure that friends and family get bumped to the top of the list. But as ISIL fights for the supposed honor of going out to kill, the coalition, as we mentioned, is still bickering amongst itself on just what to do to defeat the militants. And that's according to Middle East expert Sami Ramadani.
It's not the first time, actually, U.S. officials contradict each other within the space of 24 hours, 48 hours, 1 week to the other, even contradicting their own president. So, in a sense, these contradictory statements are not new and not surprising. Partly they reflect certain confusion at the White House itself.
10 past the hour here in the Russian capital. 2 schools in Amsterdam may be forced to close due to a lack of pupils. And the problem's apparently being caused by Dutch parents who are unwilling to send their kids to schools mostly attended by the children of immigrants. And has led to a sharp fall in the total number of students. This has prompted the teachers and pupils to take to the streets, trying to persuade people in the neighborhood that diversity will only help integration. Joined by parents and teachers, pupils went door to door in their area, handing out flyers calling on Dutch parents to send their children to their schools. We spoke to Lode van Oost, a former deputy speaker of the Belgian parliament. He thinks the authorities are failing in their job of integrating the children of immigrants.
These so-called concentration schools, you have them in Brussels, in Antwerp, in Amsterdam, in Rotterdam, you have them in Paris, you have them in Berlin, you have them all over the place. This is not at all a new phenomenon. Authorities never took the trouble to look into it and to see what can be done. Years ago, decades ago, do special efforts so that these children at least get integrated into society and are not starting life without a proper diploma because they cannot speak the language properly, etc., etc.
Time for a very short break here on RT International. When we return, the story of fresh Israeli airstrikes on Gaza. Back in a second.
It's getting cold out there. Brr.
Cold War, Cold War, Cold War.
New ice age in relations with the West.
We will have a relationship. The question is, what kind of relationship?
Maybe the kind of relationship where Russia is the threat and NATO is the peacemaker.
Russia's provocations, Russia's aggression.
Bloody Russians, they keep moving their country closer to our bases.
There you go, totally clear why Russia would be blamed.